I'm standing here, surrounded by what looks like a postcard from heaven. Crystal clear turquoise water, white sandy beaches stretching for miles, and lush green palm trees swaying in a gentle breeze. This is the place you see in travel magazines, the screensaver on your computer, the dream vacation you've always wanted. For a while, this was my reality. I packed my bags, left everything behind, and moved to what I thought was paradise. But here's something they don't show you in the brochures. Paradise has a dark side. A side that's not just about sunburns and tourist traps. I'm talking about real, life-altering danger that lurks just beneath this perfect, shimmering surface. This isn't just a travel story. This is my story of survival in the world's most dangerous paradise. My first few weeks were pure bliss. I woke up to the sound of waves, spent my days snorkeling with vibrant fish, and my nights stargazing on the beach. I felt like I had discovered a secret corner of the world that was untouched by the chaos of modern life. The locals were friendly, the food was incredible, and I was genuinely happy. I thought to myself, this is it. I've made it. I felt a sense of peace I'd never known before. I was living the dream, or so I thought. The first crack in this perfect facade appeared subtly. It was a change in the atmosphere, a certain tension in the air that I couldn't quite put my finger on. The friendly smiles from some locals started to feel a bit forced. Whispers would stop when I walked by. I initially brushed it off as me being an outsider, maybe a cultural misunderstanding. But then, small things started happening. A bag went missing from the beach. My rented scooter had its tires slashed overnight. They were minor incidents, but they were adding up, creating a sense of unease that began to chip away at my perfect paradise. One afternoon, I was exploring a secluded cove, a place I was told was a local secret. It was breathtakingly beautiful, completely isolated. As I was taking pictures, a small boat approached the shore. 3 men got out. They weren't tourists, and they definitely weren't fishermen. Their eyes were cold, and they moved with a purpose that made my blood run cold. They didn't say a word to me at first, just started unloading unmarked packages from their boat onto the beach. My heart was pounding in my chest. I knew I had stumbled upon something I wasn't supposed to see. I tried to be invisible, slowly backing away, hoping they hadn't noticed me, but one of them turned, and his eyes locked onto mine. There was no mistaking the menace in his gaze. He said something in a language I didn't understand, but the threat was universal. I froze, my mind racing. Run? Stay? Scream? There was nowhere to go? The jungle was thick behind me, and they were between me and the water. This picture-perfect cove had just become a trap. He took a step towards me, and that's when my survival instinct kicked in. I didn't think, I just ran. I scrambled into the dense jungle, branches scratching my face and arms, thorns tearing at my clothes. I could hear them shouting behind me, the sound of their footsteps crashing through the undergrowth. I've never been so terrified in my life. Every shadow looked like a person, every sound made me jump. The beautiful, lush jungle that I had admired from a distance was now a terrifying, disorienting maze. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs felt like they would give out. I have no idea how long I was running, maybe 10 minutes, maybe an hour. Time seemed to warp. Finally, I couldn't hear them anymore. I found a dense thicket and crawled inside, trying to make myself as small as possible, trying to quiet my ragged breathing. I stayed there, hidden, for what felt like an eternity, listening to every snap of a twig, every rustle of a leaf, convinced they were just around the corner. As dusk began to fall, the jungle transformed. The sounds changed. The familiar chirping of birds was replaced by the calls of nocturnal creatures I couldn't identify. The darkness was absolute. I was lost, alone, and terrified. The paradise I had fallen in love with now felt like my worst enemy. The beautiful plants, the exotic animals, the very air itself felt hostile. I had no food, no water, and no idea which way to go. The only thing I had was the overwhelming fear that those men were still out there looking for me. That night was the longest of my life. Every shadow played tricks on my mind. I thought about my family, my friends, the life I had so casually left behind in search of something more. I was so naive. I had seen this place as an escape, a fantasy world. I never considered the real-world dangers, the criminal element that often thrives in places that are off the grid and poorly policed. This paradise was a perfect cover for their operations, and I had foolishly walked right into the middle of it. By some miracle at dawn, I stumbled upon a small, muddy trail. I had no idea where it led, but it was a sign of civilization, a sign of hope. I followed it, my body aching, covered in scratches and insect bites. After what felt like hours, I heard the distant sound of a motor. I pushed through the last bit of foliage and collapsed onto a dusty road, right in front of an old farmer on a scooter. The look on his face was a mixture of shock and pity. He didn't ask any questions. He helped me onto the back of his scooter and took me to the nearest village. He gave me water and a piece of fruit that tasted like the most delicious thing I had ever eaten. I tried to explain what happened, but the language barrier was too great. All I could do was point back towards the jungle and repeat the word danger. He seemed to understand. He nodded grimly and took me directly to the small local police station. But my ordeal wasn't over. When I tried to report what I saw, the officer on duty seemed strangely uninterested. He took a few notes, barely looking at me, and told me I probably just got lost and scared myself. He suggested that I had imagined the men, that the sun and dehydration had played tricks on my mind. I was furious. I knew what I saw. I knew the danger was real. It was then that I realized the corruption ran deep. The authorities were either involved or were paid to look the other way. I was completely on my own. I knew I had to get out. My dream had become a nightmare. I went back to my small rental apartment, my hands shaking as I threw my belongings into my suitcase. I didn't feel safe anywhere. Every face I saw on the street seemed suspicious. Was that person watching me? Did they know who I was? The paranoia was suffocating. I booked the first flight out, not even caring where it went as long as it was away from there. The hours at the airport were agonizing. I kept looking over my shoulder, expecting to see the men from the beach appear in the crowd. I didn't relax until the plane was in the air, until I saw the beautiful, treacherous island shrinking below me. The turquoise water and white beaches looked just as perfect from above, a pristine paradise. But I knew the truth. I knew the darkness it was hiding. So why am I telling you this story? Because we are constantly bombarded with idealized images of travel. We see influencers living perfect lives in exotic locations, and we think, I want that. But the reality is often more complex, and sometimes it's more dangerous. It's crucial to do your research, to understand the local context, the potential risks, and not just the beautiful photo opportunities. Be aware of your surroundings, trust your instincts, and have an exit plan. My experience didn't turn me off travel forever, but it changed me. It made me a smarter, more cautious traveler. It taught me that paradise isn't a place you can find on a map. It's a state of mind, and more importantly, it's a feeling of safety and security. I eventually found my paradise again, but this time it was back home, surrounded by the people I love. This island will remain nameless because my goal isn't to ruin a country's tourism industry. Bad people exist everywhere. My goal is to remind you that the world is a beautiful, amazing place, but it's not a movie set. It's real. So travel, explore, have adventures, but please be safe. Look beyond the postcard. Thank you for listening to my story. Stay safe out there, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that go beyond the surface.